it's one of those things that's scary at
Yeah,
first, and then it becomes.
yeah.
I mean, you start to embrace the boomer calls out. Yeah, see now you're the rational boomer. That's already happening in real
The
time.
rational boomer.
So why don't we start? Because you mentioned blackface. Your
Yeah.
thoughts on Justin Trudeau not only not suffering egregiously for his actions, but actually now polling a little slightly ahead of the Conservatives.
Yeah. Look, I don't want to be one of these annoying people, but I saw this coming. I
Yeah.
mean, I completely predicted this. It's just Canadians are not all that aware of some of our history. I mean, we experienced blackface in this country as well.
Mhm.
I discussed it in my video. There were comedy crews, quote unquote, doing the same thing here as they were in the U.S. So that history is here. Trudeau's complete, I guess, ignorance of that would almost be more forgiving if he was just a normal person. But
Mhm.
being the son of a prime minister, you kind of expect him to be a little more aware
Yeah.
of his actions in that way, even if you're talking about the 90s or the early 2000s. Um, so yeah, Canada's, I guess, reaction or non-reaction to it didn't really surprise me.
Hmm.
Um, but with that said, look, I don't. You know what's funny about the polling on that? It actually showed that conservatives,
Hmm.
conservative voters, were the most bothered
Yeah,
by
I
Trudeau
know.
and blackface.
Yeah, the
Which
outrage.
like it's just the shamelessness of these voters. It's just it's incredible to me.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, kind of expect in that sense. I also expected, liberal voters to defend Trudeau, but I do think people on the edges. I mean,
Hmm.
people that maybe were leaning, towards the NDP, but thought, hey, I should vote Trudeau again or vote Liberal again because we don't want Scheer.
Hmm.
Maybe swayed by this to supporting the NDP. I guess we'll find out. Uh, but yeah, I don't know. I guess I wasn't really surprised by what Trudeau did.
Hmm.
Um, but it's
You mean
bothersome.
his tactics afterwards,
Yeah.
basically doing the apology tour? I was surprised that he was trying to out woke his interviewers, because that was. I mean, I guess I shouldn't be knowing Trudeau, but playing the white privilege card in all those press conferences, like, well,
Yeah, he's just like there's this video from 2012 if you can find it where Trudeau he's essentially this incredible actor. Like but
mhm.
it's so incredible in the sense where he's so phony.
Yeah,
Actually, here, I saved this recently because I was going to do I may
sure.
still bring it up in a future video, but I'm going to link it to people in the chat. I don't know
Hmm.
if they wanted to click it or check it out. But like you watch that clip
Hmm.
and he's always been phony.
Yeah.
So these apology tours, Trudeau is I think that's actually his biggest weakness is that he
Hmm.
comes off as so fake that
Hmm.
even if he rolls out an idea that maybe you support, it's hard to trust him. And then especially after, a broken promise on electoral reform where how many times did he use electoral reform as an applause line during the campaign in 2015
Yeah.
and then just didn't even bother to try? So it's hard for me to trust him on anything he's saying now. I mean, I guess they're trying to roll out a pharmacare plan. I didn't read too much about it. And now also caring about climate change all of a sudden
Just
after
set
buying a
straight, you're
pipeline.
saying that we
Like
should
it's
organise
so
party
shameless, and
rioties
it's
along the lines of the
uh,
lobsters.
I have a hard time understanding how people can trust a party like this, can trust a leader like this when it is so clear that their actions have not matched up to their promises. I just, yet we see in the polling, it's still conservatives and liberals up at the top
Oh
with
yeah.
NDP, sitting around 15%, Greens around 12%.
Yeah. Looking at 12 seats, I
So
think, or
it's
13.
just,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
if
for
anything,
me,
this
it's,
is well. I was going to say this means to me now that I think Andrew Scheer is like, oh, whoa, we can have masks off now. I can go out and like wear my Klan's robe at like press conferences. It
yeah,
doesn't matter. It'll only help me.
yeah. And his phoniness too on this issue. Oh, I was so bothered by Trudeau and blackface. You don't give a fuck. Like, shut up, dude. This is the guy that said a week earlier that if as long as one of my, for people that are running in his party, they may have a past where they said something racist.
Mhm.
As long as they apologize,
Yeah,
Andrew Scheer said this. As long as they apologize, well, we can get past it.
yeah, they're
But
welcome in
then
my party.
Trudeau has this.
Yeah,
Yeah, Trudeau does this thing, apologizes. Oh, this is really horrible that Trudeau did it. Get the
yeah,
fuck out of
it
here.
really
Like, I'm
hurt me
so,
as a man
yeah,
who's
I'm just
been
so,
affected by racism his entire life. Like Andrew Scheer knows, like
yeah,
he knows obviously.
exactly.
Yeah.
I'm just, I get so bothered by these phony politicians. I think maybe, subconsciously it's part of the reason why I really focus on American politics because it doesn't necessarily directly impact me, even though, of course, there is, a residual effect
Oh,
of
of course.
American politics on the rest of the world. But it's almost like I can engage these horrible people like, or these dishonest people like Trump or Nancy Pelosi, and it doesn't hurt me in the same way where my own leaders are doing it.
Mhm.
So there's almost that disconnect there in my ability to report on that on American politics as opposed to Canadian stuff. But
Who?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, I guess the way it's shaping up, it looks like Trudeau's going to form a minority government, but he'll probably have to do that in conjunction, I'm guessing, with the NDP and then the Greens as well, right? That would make the most sense.
Yeah, yeah, it's shaping. Look, the best case scenario is a minority government
Yeah.
with the Liberals and having a strong NDP with the balance of power. I mean,
Mhm.
then you could potentially actually have some, progressive policies
Policies.
pushed forward if you have the NDP in that position.
Mhm.
But I don't know. Look, I'm hoping in a way that the People's Party of Canada, that Maxime Bernier's party,
Mhm.
can pull some support from the Conservatives
Yeah.
and really neuter the Conservative base in that way and prevent him from attaining power. But at least in polling, it hasn't shown that so far.
Mhm.
Even though I think Maxime Bernier is sort of what you expect conservative voters to go to. I mean, the kind of figure you expect them to go to, somebody who is, tired of this PCBS, like much like Trump in that way.
Oh yeah.
It's it's surprising to me he hasn't gotten more support so far. I think part of the reason though is because of the media. I don't think Maxime Bernier is getting as much coverage as he would like, and
Mhm.
that's definitely impacting him. But he's apparently going to be in a debate, I
He
believe.
is. I think the
He
one
was
on the
approved to
7th.
be.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited to see how that plays out. And I
Mhm.
think after that debate, I think he'll grow in support. And look, I'm not happy about that. I don't want him. I don't want him growing in support, but I think he will.
Mhm.
And the result of that is, I think it'll affect Andrew Scheer's Conservatives.
So, speaking of holding on to the balance of power, what are your thoughts on impeachment and the president?
Finally,
Ah,
I
okay.
mean, it's about time. So yeah, i- impeachment exists for people like Donald Trump. I mean,
Yeah.
if how many like it's not even just this Ukraine thing. I could care less. But
Mhm.
there's what is it? 11 counts of obstruction of justice.
Yep.
There's the emoluments clause.
Yep.
There's the the war in Yemen that Trump is supporting. I mean, there's various ways you can that Democrats should be going after Donald Trump and moving for impeachment. Not to mention the dude's just crazy. I mean,
Mhm.
we're talking 25th Amendment. This guy is insane. How anybody, especially people on the left, in my comments on Twitter, are like fearing or pushing back against the idea of impeachment. We're supposed to be holding people in positions of power accountable. I mean, if you can't hold Trump accountable, if you can't use what is available to you to hold Trump accountable,
Mhm.
then what do you really support? I mean, I don't like. I get the fears, I guess, in the sense what people think that is somehow going to hurt the Democrats or somehow going to empower conservative voters.
Well,
But conservative voters vote regardless. They
right.
come
Yeah,
out
of
strong
course.
regardless.
For me,
So
I
it's
don't
not
think.
like
Well, I think it's kind of dead in the water until they get control of the Senate, personally, right? Because it's never going to get past that
oh yeah, well
stage.
in terms of Trump actually being convicted in the Senate, I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah. No.
But that doesn't mean that there shouldn't be standards held
Mhm.
for president.
Yeah.
And not to mention, I mean, over the next year, we're going to see every little detail of Trump's illegal activity and his insanity get rolled out there and be focused on in the press. And I think that's important.
Well,
And
that's the best
I
thing, right?
see,
Is the optics right before the election.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it shows that Democrats have some fight,
Mhm.
and people want to see a party that has fight in them. And
Mhm.
then, while I'm saying this, I'm imagining other arguments that I've seen on Twitter come at me where people say, "But they're not going to cover the Bernie Sanders campaign, and it's going to just drown out, Bernie Sanders." Are they covering Bernie now?
Yeah. Is he getting fair
Like,
press?
what are you talking about? Yeah, like and when they cover him, it's not positive. So
Mhm.
like this idea that it's going to distract people from the election.
Mhm.
People are already not paying attention to Bernie Sanders because the media is not paying attention to him. So
Mhm.
like it's not going to really do anything except, in my opinion, have a positive impact
Mhm.
on Democrats in the upcoming election. So yeah, I'm all for impeachment.
It just seems like odd timing, though, right? Because I think Nancy Pelosi has shown to be all but completely ineffective Speaker of the House since
Yeah.
she came back. And it's like, okay, well, now we have the smoking gun. He made a call to Ukraine and talked about Joe Biden. Like, oh, whoa,
Yeah.
how dare you, sir? Begin the process, you know? And like you said,
Yeah,
there's
it's
so many other things they could have done before this that I think have more weight to them.
yeah, it's definitely weird timing. I just think it's gotten to the point now we're here. It's kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. Like
Hmm.
it's just another example of Trump's lawlessness. Um, and it was kind of just the last straw where it's you had other Democrats in the House now come on board for impeachment that weren't on board before.
Hmm.
So now you have a majority in the House, majority of Democrats in the House supporting impeachment, and I think that moved Nancy Pelosi. So
Hmm.
I think having all these Democrats finally, wake up to the fact that they can't just let this guy keep doing what he's doing. Um, that's really what it's about. So it's less about Ukraine and this whole piece of news, and more about this is just another example of Trump, you know, being a corrupt asshole.
Yeah, that's fair. As someone with their finger to the pulse quite a bit, I wanted to ask you, we've seen Bernie now polling quite high in New Hampshire. Uh, what are your prospects on the primaries? Do you think Corn Pop Joe's eye is going to explode before the vote comes along? Or...
Cord Bob Joe. Uh, yeah. Uh, look, it's so hard for me to do this stuff because I have to balance my desires with
right.
my my brain
You
that
mean you
wants
have
to
to be an
analyze.
objective reporter? You can't be a Tim Pool?
Yeah, I have to be as objective as possible. So that's why I try not to make predictions too much.
Okay.
But in this, look, I it's going to come down, I think, to Bernie and Warren. I
Hmm.
think Joe Biden will continue to lose support. There is this fear that Warren is progressive enough that it fools enough people on the line that think, hey, well, Warren and Bernie, they're the same thing. And Elizabeth Warren, well, she's a woman, so I'll support her instead of supporting Bernie. That's kind of my fear right now. Even though, like, when you look at each of their bases, the polling on who supports Warren and Bernie, Warren's base is largely white and highly educated, and Bernie's base is diverse and working class. These would be the perfect candidates on a ticket together.
Oh yeah,
But
absolutely.
on that on that ticket, though, I want Bernie on top. I want Bernie leading that ticket because he's the one that I actually trust to fight for people.
Hmm.
Elizabeth Warren, she says a lot of nice things. Has shown some fight in the past, especially when it comes to Wall Street. But I just don't. I don't think it's really in her to actually push back against the powerful and the wealthy when they push back against her. I think she will cave easily.
Hmm.
I mean, we saw it with something as simple as an endorsement in 2016, where she couldn't even endorse the candidate who we all know she aligned with more when it came to policies. And she instead supported Hillary. Now, I think in her mind, it was a calculation of, hey, well, Hillary's going to win anyways,
Hmm.
so I might as well be the progressive voice in Hillary's ear as opposed to her having no progressive voice in her ear. So I think it was a calculation, but Warren does this a lot where she over calculates and in this and is incorrect in her calculation. So I think I'm just fearful of Elizabeth Warren and her history not being all that solid when it comes to her political calculations.
Hmm.
And not to mention, I mean, foreign policy. Does Warren have one? I mean,
Hmm.
it's just what the Democratic Party foreign policy is. Bernie Sanders actually has a foreign policy that puts humanity first, um, and not to mention Bernie's more about democratic socialism.
Hmm.
Warren is a capitalist, so
Hmm.
that there are real concrete distinctions here.
Yeah, that's
But
probably the
even when I
biggest one.
make those Yeah, but even when I make those distinctions, I wonder, are they falling on deaf ears? Like, am I really speaking to anybody? Is anybody really on the line here? Because I think again, when you look at the data, people that support Joe Biden, their second choice is Bernie Sanders.
Hmm.
People that support Elizabeth Warren, their second choice is Kamala Harris.
Really?
So yeah, so this is from Politico. They did a polling on people's first and second and third choices.
Okay.
So this is back, a few months ago. Maybe it's changed now. Maybe Warren's second choice or Warren supporter second choice is Pete Buttigieg. But I don't think it's Bernie. I think people that have committed to Elizabeth Warren,
Why are Joe Biden
they're
supporters okay with Bernie? He's so radically different from him. We're talking about
because
the most
it's
entrenched corporate
the
Democrat. Is it they just want an
yeah.
old white male, and they feel
Well, no,
safer with an old white male?
it's a combination of name recognition
Mm.
and this phony idea that that Biden's working class. So
Okay.
Biden has always had that benefit of the media
Yeah.
treating him like a working class dude, and it's because he has the appearance of a working class dude.
Yeah.
He
Well,
talks
he's
like a
Corn
working
Pop
class
Joe.
dude.
Come on. Yeah.
Yeah,
He
he's
wears
corn pop
pomade in
Joe.
his
He's just
hair. I mean, how much like that's as working class as it gets.
exactly. He's just your Uncle Joe. He's just like the typical dude. But like he's not. So
Yeah.
it's important for us to point out those distinctions between those two candidates. I think more often than point out the distinctions between Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. And the hope is, look, people that support Joe Biden, most of them aren't watching videos on YouTube.
Mhm.
But the hope is that when I do a video comparing Bernie and Biden, that people will share that video with family members, usually older family members that support Joe Biden, and
Mhm.
maybe sway them in some way, inform them in some way, and hopefully sway them to Bernie Sanders. And we're seeing Joe Biden go down,
Mhm.
so it's happening slower than I would have liked, but it appears to be happening. So I think that will continue, and it's all going to come down to who wins those early states.
Yeah,
Warren right now
it all comes down
just
to
took
like
the
four
lead.
states. It's
Yeah, and that's which is so stupid. What a
I
dumb
know.
process.
I know.
But it's like Warren just took the lead in Iowa in a first time Joe Biden hasn't been in first.
Mhm.
But Bernie Sanders has held the lead in New Hampshire for a while, though now there is one poll out there showing Warren with the lead in New Hampshire. So I'm a little worried,
Mhm.
honestly, that Warren is getting a little more support
Mhm.
right now. Especially, I mean, when she launched her campaign, it was almost invisible. I mean,
Yeah.
she was, I believe, the first major Democrat to actually announce, and she kind of faded away for a bit. And
Mhm.
then, by June, July, she really came back strong, and it appears after Tulsi Gabbard just completely destroyed Kamala Harris in that second debate that Warren took a lot of her support, and
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what she's holding on to right now is
Mhm.
that old Hillary vote and the Kamala Harris vote, and people that want to see a woman in the White House.
Mhm.
And I totally understand that, but Bernie Sanders is a once in a lifetime candidate. And if you don't support him, you are either uninformed or you don't care. So
Or you don't agree
hard
with
for me to
his
argue with that.
particular policies, right? You don't want to see an
Yeah, I
independent who's
mean that's
secretly running
yeah.
as a Democrat push the Overton window in the left direction that he probably is going to do it. I
Yeah,
was
but it's like why wouldn't you support Bernie unless you are, a wealthy like a
magnate.
billionaire? Like I don't know. Yeah, like I just don't understand why anybody wouldn't. You know what I mean? Unless he's
Mhm.
directly going after your wealth.
Yeah.
He This is somebody who has shown a 40-year record of fighting for the average person. Even if
Mhm.
you don't agree with him, say on every policy, I'm not sure what you would disagree with him on, but even if you don't agree with him on
Venezuela.
every policy, it's like that. But that's what it is, though. It's people just uninformed, and if we're able to change enough minds and inform enough people that this is
Mhm.
somebody that has it, this is why actually I think maybe the most convincing thing to have people support Bernie Sanders is show them old videos of Bernie,
Mhm.
show
Oh, that was the
show them
best.
to
Oh, David, I love that. I loved when they were like the right wingers were trotting out a new video like every single week, and each one just made him look more powerful. I was like, you're only making him assume his
yeah.
ultimate form. Like, oh my god, he's got
Yeah,
an
I'm
old
not even
public
sure if that
television
was
show.
right wingers. I think that wasn't that like centrists doing that? I
Oh,
don't know. I
was
think it
it?
was like a combination of people doing that. But yeah,
Hmm.
they were. Oh, look at Bernie. What was it? He was in vacationing in Russia or something,
Yeah.
and they're like,
Yeah, he's
it
part of
was
some
like
like socialist group where he's like, yeah, I think everyone should have rights. And you're like, okay, awesome, yeah,
yeah.
preach.
It's like exactly.
Or he's got.
So it's
Have you seen
it's
his adorable public access TV show that he had for a while?
oh yeah,
Yeah, and it's
yeah,
adorable. He
it's
just goes around the
fantastic.
community
Hmm.
talking to people about like what they want and what they need. I was like, this is so cute.
Yeah, and he treats kids like adults, which is endearing in a way because he
Hmm.
he takes their ideas, what they're saying seriously. He
Hmm.
doesn't just baby people that are younger and maybe don't know as much as he does. He takes them seriously like individuals, and
Hmm.
that's something you really don't see from uh politicians and just leaders out there. That Bernie is somebody that has a track record of standing up for people, fighting for people, listening to people, and even if you don't agree with him on every policy, he's actually somebody that cares.
Hmm.
And that is so rare in a politician that has that care for people, that compassion, and also has that fight against the against powerful interests.
Hmm. Um, My next question I wanted to talk to you about, especially if we're still talking about Bernie, is that I was talking to Michael Brooks about this, and he said that one of the things he would be looking forward to the most with Bernie is that, yes, it's probably going to be impossible outside of a few executive orders for Bernie Sanders to pull off all these kind of grandiose ideas that he has right away, especially if the Republicans control the Senate still, what have you. But what he's most excited for is that he thinks that a lot of the movement that is necessary, which is people marching on the streets, people demanding better equality of opportunity, things like that, would be able and more possible through Bernie Sanders because he's already attuned to those kind of values and beliefs. So do you think you would see not only the Overton window shift a little bit in the hearts and minds of people, but this would be the start of like an actual movement of the people kind of thing?
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, that's what sets, I mean, so many things set Bernie apart, but that's another piece that sets Bernie apart, is that
Mm-hmm.
he has that movement behind him. I mean, he's building it right now. By far, he has the most individual donors, the most volunteers by far, the most individual donations by far. He is building this movement right now, and he's the kind of person that would be able to capitalize on, say, the climate strike that we just saw. So
Mm-hmm.
this is somebody, like, imagine a president in a position of power. What I mean, president in a position of power, but imagine somebody
Imagine a
as
president in a
as
position of
president.
power.
But imagine a president being somebody who isn't just the president, but is the leader of activism, is the
Yeah.
leader of what is going on around the country, a leader of an actual leader of the people, which is what a
Mm-hmm.
president is supposed to be,
Yeah.
but somebody acting in that role as someone who is
Mm-hmm.
encouraging this behavior, encouraging people to put pressure on their politicians, encouraging primarying other Democrats who maybe don't vote his way.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe, I didn't watch the interview, but I heard Kyle talk about this. Kyle Kalinske. So he interviewed Bernie Sanders, and Bernie essentially said that he would support primary challenges against Democrats that wouldn't support for his agenda.
Wow.
Now, you will not see another Democrat say that.
Yeah, of course
No
not.
other candidate in the race will say that.
Yeah.
Bernie Sanders said that, and I believe him
Mm-hmm.
because he is somebody who will stop at nothing in his position of power to help real people.
Mm-hmm.
So if he has that position, and is able to be somebody who can really engage these movements and really get people involved and push for real change, I mean, he'll get it done.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's really what I'd be most excited about with the Bernie presidency.
Do you still find that you're having to
Illinois.
respond to like right wing reactionaries like Tim Pool like that?
I do less videos on those people because they really depress me. I
Mm.
mean, I was watching a bit of your stuff on
Oh my god,
Tim
did you?
Pool.
That's, come on, that was the
Yeah,
best Tim Pool video I've
I
ever
just
seen.
I don't know. I don't know how you stomach that guy. Like, I just can't. I have such a hard time watching these people because they're so. It's a combination of being dumb and disingenuous
Yeah.
and just bad people. I
Mhm.
mean, Tim Pool was a guy that wasn't, at one point, wasn't he somewhat respected like years
Yeah.
ago as like an independent on the ground journalist, and then he
For
just took this
Vice.
weird yeah, for Vice, and then he took
Yeah.
this weird crazy turn. I guess he
Mhm.
found an audience this way, and like I'm not even sure if I trust him that he believes what he is saying. Because at times he comes off like he's trying to search for the argument, that he doesn't really know what the argument is, but he tries to
Mhm.
go back to his right-wing bubble ideas and think,
Mhm.
okay, well, the right usually says this, so this is how they should approach this issue. Like, it doesn't, I'm not even sure if I believe him.
Mhm.
Like what he's doing and stuff. He just knows, I'm gonna make some more money off this video, so I
Oh,
gotta do this.
absolutely. Oh
Like,
yeah, no, it
yeah,
pays.
and that's a lot of them. I think Dave Rubin's the same way, even though Dave Rubin is so incredibly dumb. So it's possible he has convinced himself now that
I
he
think he has.
is a classical liberal
Yeah.
or whatever the hell he is.
He
Yeah.
was.
So yeah,
I used
and
to
then
be.
yeah. Again, these people. I have a so I get less reaction from their audiences now because I don't cover them as often. I get more reaction from people that are like, Tulsi supporters, Yang supporters.
Interesting. So
when I
you get a lot of
when I
Yang
don't
Bang bashing.
well, actually, less Yang. On one video, Yang was brought up a bunch of times because I didn't mention him when I was supposed to, apparently.
Mhm.
But it's usually Tulsi because I'm just amazed at the lengths that Tulsi supporters will go to defend her. And
Mhm.
look, I think Tulsi has some good qualities.
Mhm.
Um, but like, she completely dismantled Kamala Harris in that debate. That was it was fantastic that
It
she
was
was
very
there to do
nice.
that.
Yeah.
But she put out a tweet this weekend celebrating that Modi was coming, like just completely ignoring what's happening in Kashmir, completely
Yep.
ignoring Modi's history in
Well, she has a
the
long and
genocide
sordid
he was
history
having
when it
involved
comes to
with.
Modi, right?
Yeah, so there's that, and also, I mean, in the debates, while she was going after Kamala Harris pretty hard, she's just defending Joe Biden or just completely ignoring all of everything Joe Biden's done wrong, which was
Yeah.
really suspect.
See, I
And
was I was one of the
now,
people. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
well, just I was gonna say, and now she is saying that she's against the impeachment of Trump.
Hmm.
So, I mean, when we're talking about people or the idea of Tulsi going after somebody in a position of power,
Hmm.
she hasn't shown the willingness to do that.
Yeah.
Whether it's Modi, whether it's Trump, whether it's Joe Biden. So yeah, I don't really get all the craziness around or all the love and support for Tulsi Gabbard.
It almost sounds like you think she's a political opportunist.
Hmm. I do think that. I
Yeah.
mean, look, I'm willing to admit too that I was kind of fooled back in 2016. She dropped out of the DNC to support Bernie Sanders. I thought that
Hmm.
was an amazing move. She talked honestly about how she felt pressure within the DNC to support Hillary Clinton, even though she supported Bernie. But now looking back on that, it's possible that was just a total political calculation. Just
Yeah.
her thinking, "Hey, I'm gonna get more screen time if I do this,"
Hmm.
and so that's why she did it. And she was able to cultivate this base
Hmm.
stemming from that. I mean, not many people before that really heard of Tulsi Gabbard,
Hmm.
but after she did that, she created this strong support base of people. Um, that now many of them will just look past any criticism. I
Yeah.
mean, she voted against a bill taking in Syrian refugees.
Hmm.
She was wishy-washy on the idea of torture back in 2014. I
Yeah.
mean,
Well, wishy-washy at best. She was basically like
yeah, at
Jack
best,
Bauer.
wishy-washy.
I think it was Jack Bauer rules was her official quote, right? Like,
Yeah,
as long as they're bad people, it's okay.
as long as we'll get some information from them, sure. Like it's just yeah, and they'll just look past this stuff,
Hmm.
and it's weird to me because these are people that should otherwise be rational, should otherwise be people that I would think would support someone like a Bernie Sanders.
Hmm.
Um, but they find ways to defend her,
Yeah.
and
It's a cult of
it's gotten to the
personality.
point now. Yeah, it's gotten to the point now where I just call them tull cells. I think Hassan Piker started doing that, and
Yeah.
it's the perfect phrase for them, tull cells. It's just it's this insane love for Tulsi Gabbard,
Hmm.
largely likely because they're attracted to her. Like that's I don't know what else it is. It's crazy.
um, yeah, so many people have been asking me in this chat. Maybe I should just drop it. Where does the name the Rational National come from? Is someone else is like,
Oh,
yeah, someone is like, is he a national? Yes,
it's
hardcore
weird how people
nationalist
think.
David Dole on the show, on the program, just for you, everybody.
Yeah, if I knew at the time when I made the name how many questions I would get about it, I probably or how many people would think I'm a nationalist, I probably would have chose a different name. But it was sort of like kind of out of the out of CBC's The National.
Ah,
So
okay.
in Canada we have a new show called CBC's The National, and I just thought, hey, like so the way my channel started, I was going to do more comedy. And if
Yeah,
you go back
okay.
to my old videos, I was doing a lot of comedy. I'm not sure if it's funny, but I was doing some comedy back then. So I
Oh
was trying to be
no.
more like lighthearted, more like
Yeah,
Jon Stewart, Colbert kind of style.
yeah. Why'd you
So
stop?
the idea of like calling it, sorry,
I said, why'd you stop?
uh, I don't know. To be honest with you, I think I just kind of found finally what I enjoy doing on a
Your
more consistent
voice.
basis. That yeah, I found my voice. I mean, part of the issue with doing comedy like that is it's all scripted. I mean, the way I was doing it was mostly scripted,
Hmm.
because it's mostly about timing and about editing,
Hmm.
and it took a lot of work, and I feel like the results weren't really like if I had like a team of people working for me, it'd be fantastic.
Hmm.
But it's hard to put out consistent work, especially like I was doing short videos. I wasn't doing like long form pieces. So putting out, like a 3-minute video and it takes like a day and a half to do it. It's just it wasn't really what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I more enjoyed being able to comment on more topics rather than just 2 or 3 things a week.
Hmm.
So being able to talk about more issues was kind of, I guess, the what really drove me to really do what I'm doing now.
Hmm.
Um, but what was I saying? So yeah, back then I was doing uh more comedy, and that's kind of where the name derived from. So it was just like the Rational National, like, oh, it's the kind of a funny tweak on the National. And at the same time, like I was aware at the time that, hey, some people may think I'm not what I am, or may think I'm a conservative or something. um but I thought that would be a positive.
Mhm.
That I would get in, I would trick some, I would trick some, some nationalists to watch my video, and then they would, start learning something, and then they would turn into a progressive. Like I had this like clownish idea of what might happen. I'm not sure if that's ever happened at all to anybody watching my show,
In the
but
history.
that was kind of the idea at the time. But looking back now, I feel like if I chose a different name, I may have a larger audience now than I do.
Were
but
you part of the skeptic
but
community? Is that where Rational came from?
No, not at all. Like, yeah, that's another thing too. People think I'm one of those like, yeah, no, I was never part of that community at all.
Mm.
So yeah, for some reason, which bothers me, that word, that the word rational is somehow attributed to the skeptic community.
Oh, you can thank the internet for
Um,
that.
yeah, like the word rational to me just means rational.
Yeah,
Like
no, of course.
it doesn't have any other meanings for me. But
Yeah. Well, I
yeah,
mean,
that's a lot of people as well think that's kind of where the name comes from as well. And no,
mhm.
nothing to do with that.
No, I mean the internet can be a vicious thing. Did you follow? Like you reported a little bit on PewDiePie back in the day, right? Did you follow that the 50,000 donation he had to the ADL, the Anti
I
Defamation
heard
League?
of so Yeah, I didn't follow too closely. All I yeah, a headline is like what I saw. So he so what exactly happened? He gave a donation and then
He reached
he gave
100
it
million
back or took it back.
subscribers, and then in the middle of that,
Yeah.
he also in that same video said, "Hey, by the way, I'm sponsored by Honey, and on top of that, I'm donating $50,000 to the Anti Defamation League." Then the backlash from his fans was obviously enormous because a lot of them kind of harbor, some thoughts, some in bracket thoughts about, certain people. Trying to keep
Yeah, of
the
course.
stream as TOS as possible. And so
Oh
the
yeah.
next day he did an oopsie doopsie and then revoked the 50,000 donation, saying that he hadn't done any research and didn't know who they were at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does PewDiePie, is he still somebody that gets, that gets attention? I mean, I remember like when I was first getting into this stuff, he was like
Mhm.
the biggest YouTuber. He was making 7 million a year or something on off
Oh,
YouTube ads.
it's like 20 plus
Um,
now, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but it's weird because I mean, he's grown obviously, but I feel like I've heard less about him
Mhm.
uh
But you did a bit of
over the past couple of years than we initially did.
reporting though onto like the radicalization, for example, of youth, right? And whether it be PewDiePie or other members of that community. Basically, like you can start even as early as someone like Joe Rogan, right? Who he himself is not alt right, but he is within the intellectual dark web, and so you've got this cross
Yeah.
pollination where you might start watching Joe Rogan, then you work your way on to someone like say Stefan Molyneux, and then Stefan Molyneux has someone else on, and then you're 5 degrees away from Richard Spencer, kind of thing, like this. The what is it called? The alternate
Yeah.
influence network of YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah, I have done actually I used to do a lot more reporting on that. I haven't really gotten back into it recently, but that does remind me. Yeah, that's how a lot of, especially, young white minds, young males get into this crap is
Mm-hmm.
they, unfortunately, a lot of it could be Joe Rogan, and he'll have on, Steven Crowder, and then
Mm-hmm.
you watch Steven Crowder, and then it brings you down this rabbit hole. And the way that the way the YouTube algorithm works, is that it keeps showing you more extreme content. So, for example, if you're looking at like space videos,
Mm-hmm.
now you're going to start seeing suggestions for, oh, was the moon landing fake?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to watch that, and then you're going to get more suggestions. Oh, is the Earth flat? So like that's kind of like in terms of like space terms, that's how it works, and it works the same when it comes to politics.
Yeah.
So you start watching, Rogan, then you see Steven Crowder, then you get down to Stefan Molyneux, and who knows where it goes from there.
Did you enjoy what you just watched and now crave more nectar of the damned? Did you know that if you're watching on YouTube, you're only getting half the surfy experience? We upload all of our content commercial and censorship free to our Patreon. Due to the general demonetization of our videos, we now upload half of our original content directly to those who can help us produce this show. Want even more nectar than that? Well, come join us at twitch.tv/TheSerfsTV, where we do weekly live streams, debates, interviews, AMAs, and more. If you're an Amazon Prime member, you can help support our show 100% free by subscribing to our Twitch channel. So come join us, be merry, and know that your support is helping us do great things.
We would like to thank Miranda Marone for being our Lord and Savior. Please go subscribe to their SoundCloud and help support their art as they're helping support ours. We'd like to thank our lords, Ricky Pilgrim, I'm Raft, Michaelia Schmidt, Molly thinks she's cool. They are the pillars of our organization and helping us complete great things. And now presenting our Knights of the Round Table. Josh Mickelson, Schizosaurus, Dr. Zayas, Dylan Blythe, Paul Parfit, Andre Lynn Epperly, Daniel Kahn, Josh Mickelson, Angela, Jed Lewis, Cooper Pilot, and Todd Lajeunesse.